Alright guys, what's going on? It's your boy Nistro here. It's been a while since I updated you guys, but I've been away, now I'm back, and I'm getting back into Bleach, so I figured I'd give you guys an updated character guide for Uryu. After looking at both these patches, which the second patch doesn't really touch us, this patch 1.04 is the biggest one. There's a lot of things about Bleach Rebirth of Souls that went wrong on release. I still think the game is worth playing, even on PC and even without crossplay. I just don't think the community has a lot of faith in the game right now, and hopefully Bandai realizes this, and I hope Tamsoft is listening. They did make a statement. So they made a statement about receiving all the feedback about the release of the game, putting in rank match, character balance, competitive play. This is sounding pretty good, right? There's still a lot of botched stuff about this game, but I think the fundamental baseline of what this game is feels good. There's just a few adjustments that need to be made. It's kind of like Storm Connections. It's like, I think the base Storm Connections felt good to play, but there are some nerfs that needed to be had that we didn't have yet. And I think Rebirth of Souls, the team at Tamsoft, understands that, but it's yet to be seen how much they're going to do about it. We do know that there's a season pass, and we haven't seen any of those characters yet. We know it's going to be 1,000-Year Blood War. I'm going to keep covering this game on the channel just because I enjoy it. I play it very often, just about every night, and I just want to see more of it. This is one of the most well put together arena fighters, which is both a gift and a curse because it's still pretty botched, but it is pretty well put together and has a lot of fun things about it, including the fact that my favorite character, Uryu, is pretty fun. Now, the issue is that in initial patch, Uryu was like a mid-tier character in his base form and a high-tier character in his reawakening form. Now, with these nerfs, I'm now convinced that Uryu is a low-tier character, like possibly even bottom 5 in his initial form. Basically, they buffed his reawakening and they nerfed the base character, which is kind of dumb because it's like the character didn't really need to be touched, if I'm being real. There is way worse shit, right? Like, you got Aizen right here, who's a fucking menace. There was like loops and stuff with like Kai and Shiba that they did take out, thankfully. There's a lot worse that's going on in this game, and they decided to hit Uryu out of everyone, which is kind of crazy. For the general changes to the game in general, right? The one that we want to focus on is this very first one, where you get less fighting spirit gauge when Kompaku is destroyed. So what this means, it sounds like gibberish if you haven't played the game or if you aren't too familiar, but basically fighting spirit is the gauge that determines when you can awaken or go Bankai, right? And this is very important for Uryu because, as I just mentioned, he has to get to reawakening. That's not just the first evolution where he gets like the slight buff, where he doesn't really get buffed. He gets like the base what every other character gets, but he doesn't get anything else. There's really no change between base Uryu and evolution 1 Uryu, other than what every character gets when they awaken. So there's really no unique thing about evolving with Uryu, but you still want to do it as fast as possible because you have to get to evolution 1 to get to evolution 2, which is sort of reawakening, and that evolution is the high tier character. You get fighting spirit gauge in a few ways. It's like when you get hit, when you're hitting the opponent with certain things. There's also like using some of the bursts. So like the white burst is the best one, or the yellow burst, because those two will give you fighting spirit gauge. Now basically what they did is they made base Uryu worse, and then they made it harder, or make it take longer for you to get to reawakening, which was already an issue because against certain characters you don't get to make it to reawakening anyway, because Uryu as a character is kind of weak at close range because his light attack is very stubby. People can just mash on you and then you can't punish them, and so because of that you have to potentially sacrifice resources to make up for that. So if you're sacrificing some of your resources that would help you gain more fighting spirit because your character is so botched, then because of that, it's going to take you longer to get to reawakening because you just have to play defense, you have to have a good ground game, and therefore you can't get to the high tier Uryu character. Now, when I say Uryu is high tier, I don't mean like S. I mean maybe like a high A, but definitely I don't think, maybe low S, but I don't think he's like anything like better than that. For how long it takes to get to it, it's not like this isn't like Sparking Zero where I can just pick, you know, the Reawakening Uryu as a character from the get-go at a high cost. It's like, no, I have to go through the bows of playing base Uryu to get to the high tier character. So that kind of brings him down a tier. So going down to Uryu changes, right? It doesn't seem like there's that many. And if anything, the first one is kind of good, right? So before, Uryu, both base and in Reawakening, could not combo after his grab, which is Breaker, right? So after his grab, the only thing he can do is pressure someone from a distance with his signature move, which is when he shoots the arrows up and they come down. It was meaty arrows, so if they were mashing on you, they would get hit. But they could also just mash flash step and then you would get countered. But for the most part, unless they wanted to waste that one bar, if they were mashing, they would get hit in that moment by those arrows. So it was like a good way to bait your opponent, because to grab someone, they have to be right next to you, practically, right? And you're putting them at a distance again, so they're going to want to close that distance, so they may want to like press a button as soon as they may want to mash a button as soon as they have a chance, and then they get hit by the arrows. That was your best thing. It was a half decent setup, but it's the only thing you can do when you grab, so people wouldn't fall for it all the time. It was a decent setup, but you'd have to show your hand early because there's nothing else you can do with a grab. Now you can waste a bar to do a flash step follow-up attack after you do your breaker or your grab. Now this is great for Reawakening, because actually in Reawakening you don't even need to do the follow-up attack. You can just hit them with arrows after a grab now, and even if you did have to hit them with a follow-up flash step, Reawakening Uryu actually has the ability to continue comboing after his flash step follow-up, which is really rare, extremely rare. So again, which is why Reawakening Uryu is high tier and worth the wait, you could say, of playing the base Uryu. This is a buff. It's not a great buff for base Uryu. For base Uryu, this kind of doesn't mean anything because you don't want to waste your meter for extra damage like this anyway. You're still just gonna try to meaty them into getting a full combo. So for the second change is with Spiritual Pressure Move 2. Now this one's a nerf for Reawakening, right? It adjusted the hitbox to prevent multi-hit. This move was already not worth the meter. This move was like 2 meters, like that I could be using to inflict more damage to potentially just, I don't know, stop one attack. It doesn't have a large lingering hitbox. Like if you look at some of the other parries in the game, for something that costs 2 meters, this is an embarrassing parry. It's embarrassing, and it's only really decent when you're not in Reawakening anyway, because it gives you the powered up arrows. There's no other way for Uryu to get the powered up arrows other than to hit a counter. Like you can't even get access to it normally unless you get to Reawakening, right, where you get the powered up arrows. But otherwise you have to hit a counter. And in this game, where you have to hit a counter with no lingering hitbox, you have multiple characters who have counters with long time lingering hitboxes. Shinji walks up to you, like he taunts you, and in that entire time, if you hit him with anything, he teleports behind you and punishes you. Whereas this is a move that costs 2 bars and it doesn't do any of that. It's like 1 second or like half a second, where it's like if they're not mid button, if they're not mid attack coming at you, this is useless. And then, you know, mix that with the fact that you're playing online, where it's like you need to really read them, because if you press it too late, it's not going to come out. So you need to really read for this thing to work, when it's like you could just do Keycon move. Like, the reason why this was broken in Reawakening is because it had the potential to KO the character, but that was something that was like worth the risk, right? Because of how difficult it is to actually hit, it's worth the risk if they're taking so much damage, right? They could have just adjusted the damage. That's really what they needed to do. They didn't need to stop the multi-hit. They could have just adjusted the damage to make it more balanced, maybe bring it down to something like 4,000, 5,000 instead of like the entire health bar. But like, come on. I mean, Uryu Reawakening is still not good at short range. He's just a lot better at long range. Way better at long range. It's a nerf, but it's not a big one. So the third change is a concentration state, right? And so this is when you're in the powered up arrows, right? So this isn't just for reawakening, this is also if you hit the level 2. I made it so like you can do more with it while you're in that mode. This kind of matches with the fourth one, because with the fourth one, basically for reawakening, they took some combos away, the follow-up attack into level 1, because you can't cancel your follow-up attack anymore. But although you can't cancel it, you can now just like shoot another attack after it. So they took away the ability for smaller Uryu, or for pre-evolution, pre-reawakening Uryu, to combo after his follow-up flash step, which means basically pre-evolution Uryu can't really do that much damage anymore. Spending all your meter, the most that you can do is maybe 4,000 to 5,000. It's okay, it's all right damage, but it's not gonna win you games, right? Whereas with reawakening Uryu, now he has the ability to do like 10,000 in a single combo, because you can just loop arrows, Keycon move, follow-up attack, arrows, Keycon move. You can loop that like 2 or 3 times. I believe it's like 3 times before the game just like just hard stops you, because there's like a juggle limit in this game, surprisingly. But yeah, you can do that about 3 times or so before the game just hard stops you. So you put some level 1s, some yellow burst in there, and you're doing like 10 around 10k or so when you're in reawakening, which means you can basically just full bar someone if they're not in their final state as well. So it's pretty strong, right? It means that reawakening Uryu is so much stronger now because of how much damage he can do and how he can loop his combo. Whereas pre-evolution Uryu is a lot worse now because he can't do any damage anymore. And a matter of fact, early game, you can't do shit. You have to hit them with you have to just hit them with the same thing over and over again, because your signature move is too slow. Your grab has no mix, or if you start doing your grab too early, you're gonna show your hand, so you're not gonna have any mix for later on in the game because they're gonna know what's coming. And you just have to hit them like maybe like 6 or 7 times with the same arrows Keycon move. Because you don't want to spend your reverse gauge to teleport, because you need to save it for white burst to get more meter to awaken. So the whole character is just a lot worse before you get to that first. You know, in early game you don't need to spend as much resources because keeping people at a distance will be easy. It's once people awaken, like other than that nigga Coyote and Stark, I used to call him Smith and Wesson because I didn't know his name, but Coyote and Stark, he just outranges you in his base form. He just outranges you. He can just keep backing up because your character has no speed, and then because you're going to be so far, he can kind of read teleports as well. Like if the other player can read teleports, flash step teleports, then you're just not going to be able to get in. And he's going to hit you with so many Sarah Metralletas because you're just going to keep getting hit by his fucking large ass Saros. And then there are characters like Ukiora and Grimjow, where their attacks, like they leap at you, like they don't or even like Bunkai Ichigo, they just leap at you. They don't even fucking like dash forward in that attack. They move like half the map and come at you. And when your base Uryu has a very limited arrow range that the Reawakening Uryu doesn't have an issue with because his arrows go basically full screen, base Uryu, his arrows only go they only go so far, they only go mid-range. And like there's a lot of points in the game where like after a grab parry, right, so someone tries to grab, the other person parries them, you have to micro walk before you can hit them with your arrows, but you have to make sure to be careful not to input up plus arrow, otherwise you're going to do the shitty arrow, which goes full screen but doesn't do it, that has no follow-up and does no damage. I mean, it only has follow-up if you spend meter, but you don't want to do that. So yeah, this is just like unequivocally made Uryu a more imbalanced character. He's not really that good at the beginning of the game, and that's when things can really snowball. It essentially just creates this thing where your best game plan, unless you're really doing well against the opponent and you have the confidence that you can soul break them 3 times, you have to go for the double soul destruction after you get Reawakening. I mean, after you get your first evolution. So you get your first evolution, you go for soul break for 4, and then you get to sublimation, and then you can soul break for 5. And then that's usually your game plan. Whereas unless it's someone with like an 8 bar like Aizen, then you can just soul break them and then soul destruction. But it just makes it harder. It just makes it harder. It's like that's what you have to do. So you have to go for the 2 bar kills. Some characters can afford to go for 3 bars. I think if you're Uryu and you have a lead at the start, it's risky to go for 3 bar, but you do gain some fighting spirit for hitting them with a soul destruction or soul break, but they get more. Versus if you're getting hit with it and you're at the disadvantage, your game plan is just to go for 2 soul destructions. That was about it for this video. I'm gonna be uploading more matches and stuff later on. But yeah, getting back into Bleach, let me know what you guys think about the game or this character in the comment section below, and I'll see you guys in the next one.